Trigger warning. The following video contains triggering descriptions that may be harmful or triggering for some audiences, such as eating disorder and severe depression.
This might sound really harsh, and I'm not advising people to do this at all. This is just what I did, and I know I was stressful because this kind of led me to having an eating disorder. But I wanted to look fit for my music video that I didn't eat at all.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning back to Musicians Coffee House on episode 12. Yes, I did rebrand my podcast, so it's not Let's Grab Coffee anymore, but it's Musicians Coffee House. I changed because of various reasons, but we'll get to that later. But most importantly, we have a very special guest named Joy Yoon, who's an independent artist, and she's one of my colleagues, and she is wonderful. She's super sweet, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her amazing testimony and her story as she encounters as an independent artist, as a Korean American, and wanting to pursue her music in South Korea. If you have your coffees next to you, or if you're driving, make sure to drive safely. Feel free to join in our conversation with your coffees, and I hope you enjoy. So, Joy, do you have coffee or tea with you?
I do have my coffee. Hi. I have my decaf Nespresso in my Pikes Peak cup.
Ooh,
that's gigantic.
That's so fancy. I think espresso is still too strong for me.
It's Nespresso. It's like the brand.
Oh, Nespresso.
Nespresso. Yeah, I can't do espresso.
No. Gotcha.
It's Nespresso, wow. And it's like an Americano, but it's like I like my Americanos like really watery. So it's like double the water in a coffee. So it's basically water with like a hint of coffee. So
I mean, if it works for you, that's great.
Yeah.
I just have mixed coffee.
I do like strong. Oh, that's amazing. That's actually really good for emptying it out, let's say.
Oh, detoxing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel you 100%. Yeah.
People understand. Must try. Nothing works better than a Maxim mix.
Oh my god, yeah, Maxim. It's it's so good.
Right.
When I went to Korea, they serve Maxim coffee for free. There's a machine. It's like one of those water fountains, but instead of water, it's coffee machine. And it's free. Whoa. So I love drinking it every time I go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
But I drink it time to time with a croissant or something. Or just I
don't know if you ever tried mixed coffee with kimbap. It might sound a little weird, but it's actually really good.
Oh wow. Okay. I might try that kimbap.
It's like a good satisfaction. It's like tanjan, like sweet and salty or savory. So
speaking of kimbap, I made samgyeopsal kimbap a couple days ago, and it's been a while since I made it because I used to make it a lot.
Kimbap?
Yeah, I used to make it a lot in college with Sarah Huang. It was so good. So you just get those kim, and then you obviously put rice over it, and then spread samjang.
I think I've
half
seen
of
it.
Yeah. Put samgyeopsal, and then 깻잎, and then you roll it, and it's so good. You guys should try it out.
Isn't it really big and fat? No,
it's fat, but it's good. It's good.
That's the price of it.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming onto my podcast for this episode. I'm very, very excited, and your new single just came out recently, so I'm excited for you to share more about your song. But first, we will love to get to know you. So if you can give an introduction of yourself, that'd be really great.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. Hello. I feel like I need to talk to the mic, but no. Hi. My name is Joy Yoon. I am from Austin, Texas. I did go to Berklee with Grace. I think we met at KSA, Korean Student Association. But anyways, and I did, as Grace mentioned, just have had my first release. Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, it's like part of promotion is kind of slid into this podcast, but I just wanted to have a coffee talk with Grace, and I'm really excited. So like, thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
it's a
it's my
privilege.
pleasure.
It's an
Yeah, it's
honor.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when you mentioned about KSA, like that was like so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chiwon, Onni, and I worked really hard
Oh
to
yeah.
make it happen.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I see a lot of good things now, and I'm glad that that happened, or else like I don't think we would have met. I
We
mean,
wouldn't
maybe
have.
we would have met since the Korean community at Berkeley is pretty tight.
Oh, it is very much.
Um, but I think like we might have been like acquaintances even
Yeah.
if that
Not a
KSA.
friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Definitely.
Now let's see. Okay. So I would love to hear about how you were coping with your pandemic life, like during
Mm.
quarantine. So what was that like for you?
So, I mean, when the pandemic kind of first hit, it was just like I had nowhere to. I mean, yes, I had a place to come at. I had to come back to my parents' place, but when it first hit at Berkeley, while everyone was still at school, it was kind of like a shocking news because we only had like what 2 to 3 days notice
Yeah.
for people to kind of move out, or
Mm-hmm.
like because that's when the school kind of decided that they're going to shut down along with
Mm.
all other colleges and universities in Boston. And
Yeah.
so people are like all moving out. And I mean, I wasn't living in a dorm particularly, but like still like the classes were all just going offline. So it was all turning into virtual classes.
Mm.
And you might know living in Boston is very high cost. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back as one. And this was like right during the spring break period, or like right before spring break. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for a bit and then I'll come back. But then nobody knew that that was going to be our last.
Uh-huh.
And so I basically went back I came back to Texas. But then I just ended up staying here until like mid mid September, right before until I decided I'm going to go to Korea, which is
Mm-hmm.
another story that I'll talk about later. But during that time while I was in Texas, right after I came back from Boston, I feel like it was just like a massive roller coaster. Like it was nice seeing my family, but just leaving my friends and my everything that I've built in Boston, like my school life and everything behind without any goodbyes nor wrapping it properly was very it was heartbreaking, honestly. Like I never really nobody ever had ever thought of that happening. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a first for everyone. It wasn't just me in the boat, but it was just so difficult for me, especially because I knew all my friends. And I did have a lot of Korean friends and international friends back at Berkeley, so
Mm-hmm.
I knew all of them that they had to go back to their countries or where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that it's not going to be easy for us to meet ever again. Like nobody knew. I mean, nobody knew that it was going to be the last time seeing each other for a long time.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
so that kind of put me into a slight depression. I remember the last night of me staying at Boston, I was crying crazy. I was like,
Mm.
why is this happening, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I hopped on the plane. I came back with like gigantic mask and a face shield.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and that happened. And then for the first couple of months after the pandemic hit, I
Mm-hmm.
was blessed enough to have an internship, which was remote. That was based in
Okay.
LA.
Okay.
And so I've been working on that along with my school stuff, um, which wasn't difficult because there's only 1 hour differences between the Central Time and the EST. So it wasn't like a huge time difference or anything. But that was my life. And then my internship actually turned out kind of weird because the
Wait,
guy,
why?
I'm not going to mention the name of the company or the person, but
Mm-hmm.
I was basically like their marketing, content creating, not a manager, but an intern. So I was helping him with, content creating, TikTok stuff and all that. And it was really difficult for me to communicate with him because he would never like reply to my anything and never really gave me much tasks. And then I think it was like towards the end of the internship, he emailed me saying that he no longer wants to continue with me, which was funny for me because I've done stuff that I had to seek and like I had to look for the things that I could do for the internship because he didn't really mention much about it. And then he cut me off and I was like, okay.
That's
I mean, it
not
wasn't really for
professional
like
at
any
all.
credits or anything. It was just for the sole like experience. So that was good, but it just kind of ended weirdly, which was, it's like sure.
I'm really sorry to hear
but
that.
that
Oh, man.
experience kind of led me into meeting, not meeting because I've met them at Berklee, but working with my friends and his startup company. It's called Prowse. I don't know if you've heard definitely, but Prowse is
David Kim
with David Kim and Hyukjin Park, H.J. Park. They are co-founders along with Nikki Kim. She's a executive director at Prowse. So we're basically a team of people who are distributing like Western, like let's say like American artists to Korea and trying to build their fan bases. So we're helping them distribute content creating along with marketing, promotion, all that. And when David and HJ heard that I was interning at a company as a marketer, they're like, yo, we need you. And I was like, hey, I gotcha. And so that's how it all started off. So after that LA internship, I hopped right on back to working with Prowse virtually. So I think it started all like last, I'm gonna say mid-May. That's when I kind of started working with Prowse. And so we had small and large projects here and out there. We've helped artists release as well, which releasing wasn't really our primary business product, but it was like a beta project. And then we were gonna release one of my songs as well. So we also do like a production project as well, and I was gonna be like the first, not the first because we've had betas, but first official project. And HJ and David was so nice and generous to compliment the music that I wrote, and they loved what I did, which I was so thankful. And they're like, yo, we need to do this together. And so I was like, yes, please. And so original plan was for me to go to LA during the summer of 2020 because one of the producers were there, or both of the producers were there. But then I decided not to because the pandemic hit really bad in LA area, and I knew no one besides David, who's in LA, and his wife, who's in LA. But I had no connections there, and just me going there, getting an apartment, and just living a new life during the pandemic didn't seem like the best idea. And so the next option that I had was to go to Korea because we were going to do the full out release process of, recording, music video, photo shoot, and everything. And so I was like, you know what, might as well go to Korea. And so I convinced my parents and I flew to Korea mid-September, I believe, of 2020. So that's how it all started. So I'm going to say in general, my pandemic was very busy.
Yeah.
It was filled with a lot of things, but I was stuck at home. I even wrote a song about being stuck at home.
I heard that. I saw it.
It was like a lame project.
It's so creative. Like I honestly, I want to use it in my music therapy sessions one day.
Please do.
It's like a really good song.
It's all yours. I'll make the lead sheet and everything so you can use
Oh my god, yeah. It's really nice. Like those of you who haven't heard, it's on her Instagram. Just look for her, like the little video thing. But yeah, you'll find it. But it's really good. I think I saved it like on my Instagram. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, so that's what happened. Like I feel like I was just working. And I feel like I slowly enjoyed it a lot more than it was difficult because there were time differences. HJ lived in Korea during or before the quarantine. He was in Korea, David was in LA, and I was in Texas. So we have this 3 different time zones that we needed to figure out. But I mean, it all worked out, and it got all better as soon as I flew to Korea. So yeah, I mean, that's when the whole production Team Joy Yoon kind of started. So yeah, but then I don't know if I want to like. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you're not.
Oh, okay.
Keep talking.
See, I don't know how to do this because like podcasts, you're supposed to be talking, but then when you think about it, like you're talking too much, and you don't want to be like overbearing people with whatever you have to say. But I'm here
You're
to
not
share,
talking too
so-
much. Like, you're sharing your story, and I think it's great. Yeah, keep going, sis.
I mean, so I'm like going through this timeline of what happened in 2020 because that's when the big things happened, or not the big things, but things that were significant in my life happened, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big current event for you.
Very much. And then so I flew to Korea like mid-September, and I got out of quarantine early October. And during that time, my grandma was in a critical condition. So we and in Korea, which I think it's like amazing how they're doing this. I mean, it was difficult for people, but it's just for the best. So all the hospitals, you need to get COVID tested in order for you to, I don't think they do this anymore, but like you need to get COVID testing for you to enter the hospital with as a patient's guardian.
Okay.
And you can only have one guardian per patient. So nobody could really see her, my grandma, besides my aunt who was taking care of her back then. And so we couldn't go see her. But then as soon as she went to the nursing home, which was still the same case, we couldn't actually during nursing home you couldn't even go in besides the times that they assigned you, and you need to like RSVP in advance. And so but there was this one time that I got to see her, which was she was coming from her nursing home to the hospital to get her weekly checkup. And it's like I could see her in the ambulance, her getting on the ambulance, getting off the ambulance, and after her doctor's visit, I can just see her like for like 10 minutes or so. So I did get to see her with my sister because me and my sister went together. And then we saw her, and then the week after she passed. So yeah, it was kind of it was difficult, but when I think about it now, all my family members, we all agree that I feel like she was waiting for me and my sister to come and see her before she went to God. And it was very difficult. And I feel like, like my whole releasing, I don't want to like bring my releasing stuff back into this topic when I'm talking about my grandma, but like it all just kind of rolled in together where I was supposed to release around like November, like late August, not August, October to like early November, mid-November at least. But then due to this incident, everything got just pushed back. And not only the schedule, but my mentality just kind of like, I wouldn't say I went into like a mental breakdown, but I feel like I was just kind of zoning out most of the times. And it was difficult. And like it definitely was like a huge family event that happened that nobody had expected. And so going through that was just kind of like, that itself was like, I would say that itself was a life changing experience. Because I've never been I've been to funerals and I know how it's like, but it was just no, it was never when I was, grown enough to know that the process was so difficult and so overwhelming. And so that happened. But I mean, trying to wrap up the grandma stuff. I mean, she's much happier, and she's much healthier there where she is at currently. So we're all very happy for her. And actually right before my release, actually right before I came back to the States, I went to go visit her at her. We have her laid at this plantation, and so we went there, and I actually like played my song, and hopefully she enjoyed it and all
Aww.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Joy.
I definitely had her prayers and her blessings fully. She was much of a prayer. She always, prayed for me, wanted the best for me. So yeah, I'm glad that this release kind of happened eventually, because it was kind of draggy at some point, but that it happened, um, just solely for that reason, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that
Yeah.
was
I
my
mean,
2020. Um, I
yeah.
wouldn't say like my grandma's pass was like the closure of 2020, because a lot more had happened after that as well. But I feel like the pandemic and losing her was kind of like one of the
Yeah,
critical
that was
things
big.
that happened
Yeah. Yeah.
during 2020. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say.
I mean, your name is Joy, but you also bring joy to others like around you. So I'm sure your grandmother felt joy by listening to your single.
Oh,
That's just like what I'm like visualizing, and that's so beautiful what you did.
thank you, thank you.
But yeah, you went. Yeah, that was a lot. That was a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, through all of that, like, how are you coping with it today?
Um, I would say I never regret or I mean, I at least try to not look back to what had happened. Um, I mean, looking back and learning from the experiences is important, but just kind of having that in your heart and just kind of dragging along and throughout your life is never good, is what I think. And so I've definitely learned, and I would say, I want to say I've grew like a pinch bit at least. I just feel like that kind of, not just talking about my grandma, but like just the transition, live, because I came to Korea with my sister and she was there only for a little bit. So it was just like I came to Korea to make a release, but then after everything that happened, everything was just undecided,
Yeah.
Everything was things were being delayed, and I just didn't see things coming right in front of my face. So it was very unprecedented, and I was low key freaking out time to time, and that was like during then. Yes, it was very difficult, but what I got out of it was that I feel like rushing, and I know a lot of people would understand and would know this already, but rushing into things never leads to anything good. Not
Yeah.
just like your projects or anything, but even like relationships, You never want to rush
Yeah.
into anything. But what I mean by rushing in terms of like what happened to me, like producing and like making music, I feel like I was low-key freaking out trying to make this good. And I knew I needed to get this out as soon as possible was what I was thinking. But then that didn't really bring anything good out of me. Like in terms of making music,
Right.
like I felt like my music was going into a different direction of what I was originally planning. I felt like nothing was getting any better, only worse as the harder I tried. So that was just a lesson that I kind of got out of it, and I'm glad that that happened, because I feel like I wish I was the kind of a person who kind of learns from what other people advise you, but I think I'm much of a person who kind of learns from her own mistakes. And so I learned the harder way. But at least I end up learning from it. So I think
Yeah.
like these days, I'm not gonna say it's easy, nor like I'm doing this correctly or I'm successfully doing this, but I at least try and know that I shouldn't be rushing. And I
Yeah.
feel like rushing kind of also leads to like worrying, concerns, depression, all that. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to opt that out of my life at the moment. I think that's like the one thing that I want to kind of remove from my scene. So
Yeah. And it also like rushing into things, I feel like you kind of miss like moments in between of what's like happening too. Um So I definitely understand what you're saying, and I'm glad you like mentioned that, because I feel like I feel like this pandemic, or like ever since 2020, or maybe even before the pandemic happened, like many of us compare ourselves to a lot of other people
Mm.
and think like, oh my gosh, like I'm so behind, like compared to like this person, or I need to be ahead, or I need to catch up. But really, like everyone has their like own momentum,
Mm.
and you have to follow by your own pace
Mm.
so that you reach to that goal that you like, where you want to be at. That's
Right.
just like my opinion.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of like with the whole rushing thing. Like I've been there, done that, and still kind of working on it, you know.
We're all in there.
Yeah, I could be like really impatient at times, but also like I try to like just chill out, take a deep breath, and just do what I can do today, and then
Mm-hmm.
whatever I don't end up finishing up, I'll save it for tomorrow or next week or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wow, Joy, you really shared such like a lot of turbulence in your life, but also like beautiful moments in between. So I just want to say thank you for sharing with us of that. Um, I also want to like ask you, like besides the hardships of the hectic schedule of, you know, your new single, I feel like there was like other struggles that may have caused like an anxiety and depression that you
Mm.
may have, and maybe it's because as a Korean American, the transition of going to South Korea, which is like a very different culture, could
Mm-hmm.
also, I don't know, might have affected your mental health, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, before I say anything, it's like a slight disclaimer. Like, by all means, I'm not trying to discriminate one culture or like compare one culture to another, because I
Mm-hmm.
am, as mentioned, we are both Korean Americans. We have both identities in us, so we don't want any of that side of us to be, dissed or talked about. But solely
Yeah.
from my experience and the hardships that I kind of encountered through the transition, um, was, I think, as we are all aware, I think the differences between the Korean culture and the American culture versus, it's like Korean culture, American culture, and the Korean American culture are just solely all just so different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but mainly being a Korean American going to Korea, I feel like I was kind of silly enough to think that I can cope both and I'm good at both and I'm adapted. I'm adaptive enough to not feel any differences.
Mm.
And that I just thought that I could do it all. Um, but it kind of hit me really hard. Not as soon as I went, but after the whole the crazy nonsense. The one of the main things that I kind of realized of the Korean culture, they're very fast paced, and this can lead everywhere. Like, for example, like one fun fact is we go to a restaurant and on the table they have this buzzer, like they have this bell thing,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever you press it, the waitress or the waiter or the server comes and you can ask them for stuff. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
at first I was like, whoa, what is that? Like you can just, like patiently, where there is no patience, I feel like. And not saying that's bad or good, it's like in a very fast going big city, that's really
Mm-hmm.
important, like everyone's like chop chop chop, you need to take and go and take and go. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I thought it was very interesting. But you never see, like, I got used to that so much when I came back here. I was at a restaurant and I'm like waiting for the waiter. I'm like, like, come on, no, like I'm hungry. And
Oh
so I was
man.
like, whoa. I mean, I got used to that so much, but when I first
Mm.
went, that was one thing that was like kind of catching my eye, kind of. But not only that, I feel like the life, how people spend their life and their career and dealing with their jobs and everything, I think that itself is very fast forward, which kind of leads to people rushing and feeling that anxiety of, oh, am I behind the game?
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that I've kind of heard that shocked me a lot was about my age.
Hmm.
Um, when I told people that I am releasing my music, my first single, they were all very shocked about the fact that I am releasing my first one at the age of 23. 23 American age, but I'm 25 there. We're 25 there. So, I mean, that was one thing that was shocking. I was like, why am I 25 there? Yeah. But they were all very shocked that I was very old to make my first release. That I was very old to start off this late, and they were very curious that why I haven't given up yet. They didn't really use the word giving up in particular, but they indirectly told me, why don't you, try seeking for other jobs? Like, why didn't you? Or, a lot of whys. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I did see that coming. Like, I knew that people are very, like, all the idol and the celebrities, they start at a very young age, and that's good. Like, good for them. Sometimes I envy them a lot, and that kind of leads to my depression as well. But I know that's not where I am. I'm trying to like not think about it.
Yeah.
But I knew that people are going to mention about it, and I knew it. I thought I was well prepared. But then hearing that from people, I was just very shocked. Like, once again, that not about the fact that they said that, but I think it just also hit me the fact that I am kind of not that young anymore. Because I feel like that's the one thing that I didn't want to think about, because I do see a lot of famous musicians, and they're already thriving at a much younger age than where I am, which is ridiculous because they are really, really young. And I do still consider myself as young, but it's just the definition of young was so insignificant for me. And I think that's where it kind of hit me that I think that's where the whole rushing into things and feeling the anxiety of not being where I thought I would be at, and the current status quo kind of hitting me differently was kind of making me struggle. So that was one thing. And the other thing that was quite crucial, that hit crucial for me to kind of like feel that anxiety was the beauty standard. The lookism is just so different. And another disclaimer, like, I'm not saying what they think is wrong or what I think it's right. It's just what I felt out of it. I felt like, so this is very like, I've thought about this multiple times, trying to not use the word skinny nor fat or chubby or any of the words. I was trying to avoid those words, but I think it's really just difficult to mention about this without it, because that's where it kind of is rooted at. I feel like I didn't consider myself to be skinny nor fat. I thought I was just myself. But then I met this one person where he directly commented at me saying that I feel like you should drop some pounds or kilos in Korea. I think you need to cut down some whatever you're eating and lose weight. And I'm not gonna say like that was like, it wasn't pleasant, but I feel like if I heard that in the States, I would have been really like uncomfortable, and I'll be like, what the heck is he like? What is he talking about? Like, who do you think he is? Or who does he think he is? But then hearing that from Korea, I was like so like adapted and like understanding of the career. I was like, oh my gosh, I do need to lose weight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I don't blame him for saying that, because in the end, I do like myself being fit in my standards, and because I'm tall, as you know, I'm very tall, and so gaining a couple of pounds makes a huge difference on the screen. And so I knew where he was coming from, and I was like, I wanted to do that. I wanted to lose weight, but then not because of him, because I wanted to do it for myself. But then I realized, I mean, I feel like it's just all jumbled up in my head. Like, I knew I wanted to do that, and he mentioned it, and I was like, you know what? This is what I wanted to do. I'm not going to make this any toxic than it sounds like, so I'm going to do this for myself. But then him saying that, oh, you need to lose weight, you're going to look chubby on the screen, was like, it ringing in my head, you know? And so,
Man.
during my diet journey, I was kind of thinking, well, this is kind of sad, you know? Like, of course there's still people, it's getting to like it's getting to people's acknowledgments where they are now aware that the beauty standard is created by the society, not by anyone else, and that should change. And so there are a lot of people who are standing out for and speaking up for what they think that's right, and I'm really thankful for those people who are doing that. But still, it's very clearly set that being skinny and dieting is so crucial. Like for YouTube or like Instagram ads, I saw so many dieting advertisements, like dieting pills, dieting medication, dieting programs, like weight loss, meal prep promotions, and all those, which is great. Like it's interesting, like it's cool, but like the social norm that it has become, I thought it was kind of unfortunate. And I mean, I honestly don't know how to like wrap this, but I think it's still gonna go for a while. You know, like people are still, there are so many people who are struggling to lose weight to be in the industry, you know, just to be in the industry. But I mean, if I say this, I feel like there might be people saying, you know, oh, she's just saying that because she doesn't want to lose weight. But one of the reasons I want to be a thriving artist is to kind of change that norm as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm not going to say like, oh, I want to stay chubby, I want to stay skinny. Like I don't want that to be mentioned to define an artist, to define any song or any music, you know. I feel like that's one thing. And I'm not going to say like that American scene doesn't have that kind of standard. Like everyone thinks like, even like
oh yeah,
on Instagram, you see
everywhere.
like Instagram stars and they're like so skinny and like fit and tone.
I mean, have you seen Billie Eilish's like posts these days? Like, remember how like I remember in one of her interviews, Billie Eilish, the reason why she wore so many baggy clothes was because she didn't want people to like focus on her like body shape. So that's why she wore like baggy clothes. But then like she revealed her like beautiful body a couple of weeks ago,
right?
Like her wearing corsets and lingerie, like, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. Like her curves are just like took my breath away. Yeah, but it's unfortunate that the whole dieting, the whole like visuals, image is very strict out in our industry,
very much,
even in like film and other stuff.
So it's just, I think this has to do, I mean, yes, it's more like harshly mentioned and harshly said in Korea, but it's just the social norm that it has become already. And so yeah, I think those were like the things that kind of put me into depression, because like, you know, when you think about it, if you don't eat, I get very hangry easily.
Same.
During my time, this might sound really harsh, and I'm not advising people to do this at all. This is just what I did, and I know I was stressful because this kind of led me to having an eating disorder. But I wanted to look fit for my music video, that I didn't eat at all. I want to say at all, but I only had a meal a day, very limited calories. I counted my calories. I walked a lot. Like I would walk from like station to station, which was like hours long. I was very insecure about my body. I ended up being insecure about my body and insecure about like what I put into my mouth. Like I knew that this wasn't healthy for me, and I wanted the one thing I wanted to avoid was having an eating disorder or having a bad relationship with food in general.
Uh-huh.
But not blaming the dieting society, but just me thinking about, wanting to be fit for my music video or for my photo shoot. I was not eating, and I was on diet throughout my stay in Korea. Like, my music video shoot ended up being at March of this year. And so I was there since when, like, let's say, like, my official stay in Korea started early October. So, like, from October to March, I was on a diet. But it's not like, yes, I ate, like, yummy food. Like, I ate tteokbokki, I would eat pizzas, I would eat stuff. But then all the time I would think about, okay, this is going to make me gain weight. This is not good for me. And so I wouldn't be able to digest, nor I will feel like I'll get nausea, and, like, I'll sometimes feel dizzy eating normal food just because I just wasn't used to that. And later on, I eventually got scared about the fact that I'm eating. Like, I just couldn't control myself. I saw myself binge eating, some time to time, because I was restricting myself. Yes, I did lose a lot of weight, but that just caused me to ruin my relationship with food. So if there's anyone out there who's watching this video or listening to this podcast, who is trying to, I would say, lose weight, I really do. And I've seen so many videos say this, and I'm not a health expert who can really proudly say this and for sure say this, but just one thing is, don't not eat to lose weight. Just please eat and take the harder way, because that's eventually gonna make you last longer. And it's just, I just forgot about how much I love food and how much I wanted to, maintain the good relationship with food. It's just losing balance between food, or not a balance, but relationship with you and food. You never really think about it until you really lose it, and you just don't know how to cope with it. So I just want to advise people to just don't stress too much about it, and just, the best way to, if you want to lose weight or get fit, the best way to do it is to eat healthy, eat a lot of protein, and just work out. Don't push your body too much. Don't push yourself. And yeah, because I've definitely lost the game, and it was just so hard for me to like get back on track to eat normal food. So yeah.
Wow.
But I feel like that stress just kind of came from the whole, I want to look skinny for my music video, which I don't even know if I look skinny, because I was so,
you look so good. You look so good.
I was so stressed.
I can't wait to reveal the
nervous
picture that you sent me. So
I mean, my directors and, like, my creative director, like, my team, like I said, like, I had an amazing team. So
yeah,
all claps to them, honestly. So
I mean, you yourself, you worked so hard. So props to you. All the credit to you too.
Am I talking like with like a correct storyline? I don't know if I feel like I'm going like here
Honestly,
and there. And, like,
this is so authentic, and I love it. I did not know about the eating disorder, to be honest. But I'm also, like, very, very thankful for you sharing that, because I know it could be a very sensitive and triggering topic for you, maybe. So I just want to really appreciate you just sharing that with me and with us.
No, like, I feel like maybe the reason I might have just forgot to talk to you about this, because I thought it was kind of irrelevant. But then talking about the body image and the whole beauty standard, I think it just kind of rolled into it. But I'm saying that this whole eating problems or, like, dieting problems, it didn't really have to do with the cultural thing. Honestly, it was just, I mean, yes, there's a cultural norm that kind of had suggested me to go on a diet, but the diet itself kind of came from my intentions and for me, and it just wasn't the best way, the proper way for me to approach it. But yeah, I just don't want to, well, I would hate to see other young beautiful ladies or men, gentlemen's, going through this because of the social norm. Just, it's it's oversaid and overly mentioned, but who is gonna love us if you're not gonna love yourself first? You know, if you don't love
Yes.
yourself for the person who you are, you know, who do you expect to love you back? You know,
That was
the number
good.
one person who should love you the most and bring all the blessings to you is, I feel like, yourself. And I'm saying this for myself as well. So, you know, just remember that. And if you just know that for a fact, then everything will just turn out to the normal, you know? You
Yeah.
wouldn't be forcing yourself. You wouldn't be, you know, harassing yourself. So
Yeah, that was
let's love
really
ourselves, people.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think, like what you said, it is like mentioned often, but not practiced enough. You
Mm,
know, like I think we really need to digest it and like accept it
yeah,
and find a way how to practice that in our daily lives.
right.
With those self cares. I think that's where
Mm,
the self care comes from. But yeah,
right.
those are like really good points. I'm so glad you mentioned it.
I mean, it's easier said than done. So, like, I'm
Oh
still
yeah,
working on it, you
100%.
know?
I really admire and really appreciate our conversation that we had. Just diving in more about your mental health, which I sincerely like gave you full like props to you. Like sharing those things aren't easy at all. Yeah, it was so beautiful. I loved every bits of our like what we talked about, and I hope you guys learned something or gained something, and that you enjoy listening to this episode. So yeah, definitely we'll invite Joy again in the
Yes,
future in this
please. Yes, please.
podcast. Make sure to follow Joy You and her Instagram will be on top. And make sure to check out her new single. It's really, really good. It comes with a music video and everything on YouTube. So make sure to check her out, subscribe to her YouTube and everything. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for tuning in of Musician Coffee House. And make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you can. Or if not, there are other like podcast platforms where you can leave a review or a rating. So that would help me a lot. Yeah, once again, thank you so much, Joy, and thank you everyone, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye bye.